America is home to 33 million small businesses, the beating heart of communities across the country.
And proof that the American dream is still alive.
This is a show about those dreamers and doers and the communities they serve.
Their real life stories.
Their struggles and successes.
Their grit, determination, and passion.
And the people who fight
to keep their American dream alive.
I'm Alfredo Ortiz.
I'm Elaine Parker.
And it's time for another episode of Main Street Matters,
America's small business megaphone.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. I'm Elaine Parker, the president of the Job Creators Network Foundation.
And I'm Alfredo Ortiz, CEO of Job Creators Network.
And you can subscribe to the show at salemspodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from. Alfredo, today we're joined by Lauren Fix. She's a nationally recognized automotive expert, sector analysis journalist, author, keynote speaker, and program host. A trusted car expert for over 30 years, Lauren has provided an insider's perspective on a wide range of automotive topics and aspects, including energy, industry, consumer news, and safety issues for both the industry and consumers. So that should be interesting. She's probably a kindred spirit of mine since I've worked in the auto industry as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what she has to talk about, especially when we're talking about EVs and her take on this, since she's been in the industry for so long. This thing is really changing, and this administration has put these goals out there that, frankly, I just don't see how we're going to get to. But it would be really interesting to get her take on this.
Well, it's just such a distortion of the industry with the mandates. And I think particularly over the last 2 years, the consumer's message on the EV industry has been, we're just not that into you, right? I mean, right. We'll have to see what happens in 2024, but this is really a taxpayer subsidized industry. And these cars are sitting on lots, and Ford announced that they're having its production of their F-150 EV. Tesla, GM, Volkswagen, they're all scaling back their production because the cars are sitting on the lots, and individual dealers across the country are starting to balk. I mean, they sent a letter to the administration, basically saying, stop. We can't even get people to test drive these things.
Yeah, no, it's really ridiculous. And when, you kind of looked at, the overall impact that it's going to have on the country and in terms of, climate change and all this other stuff, I mean, the numbers just don't add up. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, first of all, you're going to have blackouts all over the country because we just don't have the power grid to actually support that kind of, overall supply of cars that are out there, EV cars. So, it's just something that, I still scratch my head and how they're forcing. I mean, this is like Solyndra all over again. It's clear that the consumers don't want it. And quite frankly, why aren't we doing more hybrids? I mean, I would buy a hybrid in a heartbeat. Right. But I'm not going to buy an electric car. I mean, and then now they want, farmers to have electric cars in California. I just heard that, like all the school buses are going to go electric. The guy's like, when we go on a school trip, we're going to have 3 separate buses, basically, because we only have a range of 90 miles for them. Right? It's like sometimes our trips are, 180, 190 miles. And so, the whole thing just doesn't make sense. And it's just obviously a way of appeasing the far, far left, these climate changers. But in the end, it's really just hurting the economy. I mean, when you think about the batteries. I mean, where are the batteries going to be made? Mostly China, right? Mm-hmm. Where the stuff's going to come? I mean, it's coming from China. The price of batteries. I mean, when you want to replace them, they're $20,000 to replace a battery in your car. I mean, it's just the whole thing just doesn't add up. And again, but it'd be interesting to hear Lauren's take on the whole thing because it's just one thing after another with this administration.
Yeah, and the kicker is that they're not even good for the environment. I mean, it's as if some of these elites and political elites that are pushing for all this, they just ignore that it's African children mining the elements for these batteries as well,
Right.
and the impact on the environment. It doesn't make any sense that they just ignore it.
Right. Yeah, no, it really doesn't. And so, but hopefully, with the dealers and consumers speaking out, the pushbacks could be enough. But I mean, I don't see the administration, slowing this thing down. So it might have to be all the way to 24. I heard President Trump yesterday, for example, at his town hall talk about what he's going to do on day one, basically reverse all the executive orders that are passing, through Trump. So, through Biden. So we will see. But I definitely think this is probably, that along with getting rid of like the gas stoves and all this other stuff. I mean, it's just the list is starting to really add up when it comes to dumb ideas that this administration and this party really has for the American people.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And then when you add in what the Fed has had to do, the cost of EVs are average $50,000-$60,000. So that's not even in the normal realm for average ordinary Americans. The Fed has had to increase interest rates at such an aggressive rate over the last 2 years to try to tame inflation, that a new car rate, it can be as much as, if your credit isn't 100% perfect, you can be paying 8%, 9%, 10% on a brand new car. And when you're looking at a $50,000 or $60,000 car, that's a heck of a car payment. And so that, everyday ordinary Americans just can't afford them. And that probably is part of why they're still sitting on the lots. And then there's just the whole technology piece of it, is that our infrastructure doesn't support it, as you said, and everything like that. But it's as if the Democratic Party just ignores what's the reality of happening in the economy and how Americans are, suffering and trying to make it each month.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what she says, and if she has any great ideas on how we can, push back even further on this. But it's going to be interesting to hear how she outlines, all the challenges that she sees from her perspective, and how really the industry is changing and reacting to this EV push.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Now it is time for our interview with car and automotive industry expert Lauren Fix. Lauren, welcome to Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone.
Hi, Elaine. Thanks for having me back.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're immersed in the auto industry, and you've got the Car Coach reports. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how you're involved in the auto industry.
I've been involved in the auto industry my whole life. I'm from Detroit originally. My father worked for the Big Three, and I sort of got enthusiastic about cars because of that. But it all I had lots of different branches to this tree. I started racing when I was 16 years old. That led to me also working for my dad's company, who manufactured brake parts. Then I designed the first drum to disc brake conversion kit. For those people who don't understand that, if your car came with drum brakes back in the 60s, this allowed you to add disc brakes. So I created that. That sort of led me to, believe it or not, Motor Week, where I was able to have my first opportunity on television. It led to me dealer training, and now all of that has changed. I'm now, I was Oprah's automotive expert. I've been on every national TV show, but my goal is always to educate and inform consumers, because I understand the technical side and I have an engineering background. I'm an ASE certified technician, and I'm a racer still. I really want people to understand what they're buying. Things have changed. It used to be, I'll just go next door to my neighbor and they'll help me out. But now nobody wants to touch anything. You pop the hood of any vehicle and all you see is this big piece of plastic saying, oh, I better go to the dealer or to a mechanic. So I try to take away the smoke and mirrors. As you know, Elaine, you're from the auto industry also. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors. But I'm also big on letting people know what's really going on, because there's a lot going on behind the scenes, from kill switches to electric vehicle mandates, the price of cars, a lot of infiltration from other brands. But not just that, we have Chinese cars coming to the industry, which is really going to shake up our industry here in North America, because they've not really been here for a lot of it. We have the UAW, which we just went through, chip shortages. There's so much going on in technology and tracking that I figure if I don't let you know this, there's no way you're going to find out.
Wow. So I thought I was cool because I had changed the oil on my car when I was a teenager and I had helped put a clutch in, but you just kind of blew
Cool.
that out the
That is
door.
cool.
Well, I know that the trend, obviously, from all the government mandates is the move towards EVs, and I don't think consumers are really buying those right now. Give us kind of the backstory on the EV situation.
Well, electric vehicles have been around for a while. General Motors made an attempt at it back in the 90s. As many people know, it didn't succeed. Consumers, it didn't work. So now we've got batteries that have longer life, and we have some brands like Lucid that can give you up to 500 miles of range, which is a lot, but the charging infrastructure is not there. Consumers don't want to put electric chargers in their homes. We've had fires. We've had issues where if you want a charging station, you have to upgrade. If you got an older home, you have to upgrade your whole panel, all of your electrical. And people are like, oh, well, I thought it was just plug it in anywhere. Well, if you want to wait all day, you might be able to get enough charge to get where you need to go. And it depends on your lifestyle, it depends where you live. But like where I live in Buffalo, New York, there is no fast chargers. There's a couple Tesla chargers. And although Tesla has opened it up to a lot of brands, you're not getting the fast charging. You're getting the slower level of charging. And consumers don't want to park their car, go home, have someone pick them up, and then go back in the morning to get a fast charge is absurd. Or be forced to shop at a certain shopping center where there is a fast charger. And many of those don't work. So because of that, there's been a lot of stories, including from Jennifer Granholm, who's transportation secretary, Buttigieg. They get out there and they realize that, oh, well, we're not going to say anything. They cover it up. But the fact is consumers are seeing it. Those early adopters who want it, you should be able to buy that. But those that don't want it should not be forced to it. And we've got a lot of pushback coming. And today, Hertz announced that they're selling their electric fleet of Teslas, which is very cheap too, under $20,000, because nobody wants to rent them. It's all over the news. People are starting to realize this. But when you see big companies like Hertz doing that, and you realize that the federal government just ordered 9,500 electric cars, where are they going to get the power from? We don't have the power from the grid. Nuclear power is an answer, but it's not subsidized. So we're not going to see a lot of that. And their new nuclear power plants are smaller. They make sense. They're building them in China. They're building them in Europe, but they won't build them here because, again, it's about government pressure to push these electric vehicles on you, because it's really not about the propulsion of the car. It's really about control, because if they can limit where you go and how far you go, that changes everything, and it impacts everybody.
Yeah, it's Lauren, Alfredo Ortiz here. Thank you again for joining our podcast. It really is interesting because from a consumer standpoint, they clearly don't want these. I've talked to dealers, numerous dealers, and they're just piling up in our driveways, in the back lots. Personally, whenever I've gotten into a Tesla, I do a lot of Uber. I ask these drivers, they like it, but they are very specific. They're like, I can only drive 54 miles. Well, it's like, I'm sitting there thinking that would be nuts. Imagine trying to take any kind of a trip. It would be crazy. I personally am still waiting for hydrogen, to be kind of the wave of the future. I told Elaine, I said, I'm going to be the first person in my state to buy a hydrogen vehicle. Because I think that's actually where we should be going. But there is all of the above. Hey, electric should be part of the mix. But hybrids seem to be, to me, what consumers are going, I'm okay with a hybrid because I can do the combo between the gas and the electric. I would be okay with a hybrid for sure. But why is so? You mentioned control from the government. Do you really think that it's just that easy? That's really what they're looking for with this EV.
Well, they've said it. They've said it. World Economic Forum has said it too. We want everyone in electric cars. And if you go and you read The Great Reset, which is the book that Klaus Schwab put out, he says, and now these are unelected people. These are people with a lot of money, and they're like evil James Bond villains. They actually say, hey, we want to put people in electric cars and we know the grid can't support it, so we will force people into 15-minute cities. And that's exactly what their goal is. That does not work here in the U.S. And thank you, Alfredo, for your points, because a couple of things I want to say. First off, hydrogen is great. I've driven the BMW X5 hydrogen. It can fill a battery-powered vehicle in 5 minutes. And there's no difference as far as driving the battery power if that's what you want. I will tell you there's no infrastructure, much like that of electricity,
Right.
which is a huge factor. There have been hydrogen-powered vehicles available. Hyundai had them, Honda had them. They're only being sold in California right now. I have driven them. I have reviewed them. They used to be a Hyundai Clarity, and that was their hydrogen vehicle. And there's hydrogen stations only in Southern California. So again, it could be put into a tank a lot easier, but still that there has to be an attachment point between the hydrogen pumping it into the tank for the electric vehicle. So again, the cars would have to change. So we are seeing that at the Consumer Electronics Show. Hyundai, BMW, Mercedes, Kia are all working on it. It's in play. I know that Toyota is also working on it. So there's a lot of interesting technology there. Hydrogen is the future, but may not be because it's not subsidized by the government. So that is a huge factor to keep in mind. But remember, when we had cell phones first come out, who paid for the cell phone towers? AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. They all built towers and they worked some sort of deal to all work together so that you could have cell service. But in this case, the government's putting in charging stations and the grid can't support it. So we're putting the cart in front of the horse like the government typically does because we know how good they run Amtrak, the post office, and healthcare. Not good. So they're just not good at running businesses. They're supposed to do their job, which is protecting our nation and helping people. But unfortunately, it's costing everybody money. It's costing the small guy a lot of money. So for the average consumer, what you're seeing is the push away from electric vehicles. Dealers have them sitting on the lot. I go into lots all over the country, and literally I ask, oh, that BZ4X, that Nissan Leaf, that Ford Mach-E, and they're like, oh, are you interested? They get all excited because they're trying to get them off the lot. Just yesterday, someone sent me for sale of a brand new F-150 Lightning electric pickup truck, $25,000 off the sticker, which is the dealer going, Uncle, I give up. Please, just somebody get this thing off our lot so we can put a gasoline or a diesel powered vehicle, which will actually sell. So those are considering factors. Hybrid is a great solution, and you don't have to plug in with a hybrid either. Look at the new Toyota Prius. It just won North American Car of the Year. I'm one of the jurors. I'm also a World Car juror. And it's interesting because you drive the new Prius, 53 miles to the gallon. It's a hybrid. You want to drive on an electric? 40 miles. You can get electric power only. You don't have to plug it in. You get the best of everything. You want the plug-in? They sell the Prius Prime. And so you're starting to see a lot of these hybrids. They do get expensive. I will highly suggest that if you purchase a hybrid that you lease it and that you don't buy it, because after 3 years, you get rid of it and get the newest, hottest thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Owning it, the concern is when it gets to be over 5 years old, it's outside the warranty, and you go to your mechanic, there are two propulsions. You've got the gas side and the electric side, and it means the insurance rates are higher and also the repair costs are higher because it's like having two engines essentially.
Right.
Well, the affordability issue is a big issue because, the average EV is probably about $50,000 or $60,000 right now, and
66,000 actually.
I'm behind in my stat. But we've seen inflation so high, and the Fed has been so aggressive in interest rates. You're paying, even if you have good credit, 8% on a new car. So that's a substantial cost, even with the government rebates for an average consumer. I mean, that's got to be hurting the dealer's sales as well.
Well, there's a little more to that. As of 2024, the percentage of U.S. built components is higher, making only 12 vehicles eligible for the $7,500 tax credit. And so some manufacturers such as Hyundai and Kia and General Motors are offering a $7,500 discount. Translation, they're not selling. Because if they were selling, you wouldn't have to offer it and just basically discount the product. But they've also raised the prices. So Ford, GM, and Chrysler raised the prices of their vehicles by $10,000 and will offer you a $7,500 tax credit. So I kind of laugh at that. But the average cost of an electric vehicle is $66,000. The average cost of a gasoline-powered car is $50,000. So it's important that you do your homework and decide what works for you and check your insurance rates because you will find that will make a difference. I also will tell you the state of California and the state of Illinois are out of their state funds. So they were offering $2,500 in addition to the $7,500 if your vehicle complies. However, they're out of funds. And there's other states that are putting themselves in that position right now as well. And so this is certainly what consumers need to think about. Do your homework, check with your accountant before you make those decisions.
Now, Laura, one of the things that I've heard in California, since we're talking about California a little bit here, is that to make it quote unquote affordable to the average consumer, that they've actually approved 10-year auto loans in California.
That's not a good idea.
I mean, is that true? I mean, I can see them doing that, right? Because it makes sense to make it affordable. But I'm sitting there thinking a 10-year auto loan on an EV.
No way. That is, there's so many reasons, Alfredo, that's a bad idea. First off, anytime you own a vehicle more than 5 years, you're what they call upside down. So if you have a 6 or 8 year or a 10-year auto loan, over that time you're spending more on finance fees and charges than you will on the actual interest of the actual value of the car. So at the end of that 10-year period, the vehicle's worth nothing. Basically, it's you're putting yourself in a bad financial position. You want to get out of that vehicle? You'll be upside down, which means you owe more on the car than it's worth. And you don't want to roll that into the next car because it just keeps putting you behind and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse and you can't get out from under it. So don't find yourself doing those 10-year loans or those, my favorite, 5-year leases. You're always outside the warranty. Not a good idea. So if the warranty's 3 years, don't go longer than 3 years. There's some German cars that are 4 years. If you really have to, you can go 4, but don't go outside that warranty window because it's just like a refrigerator. Why does it always go bad? Right after the end of the term of the warranty, right? We've all done that. It's like, seriously?
Yeah, no,
I think everybody's
absolutely. Now, something, as we're talking about warranties, something I've always wanted to know. What's your advice to folks out there about these extended warranties that they're always trying to sell you when you're, at the end of that transaction, buying the car, and you sit in the, with a finance manager and they throw out all these things and go, and here's our 10 different options now on warranties.
Yes, you are calling, that's F&I, finance and insurance guys. They make more money in the dealership than any salesperson or sales manager. If I was going to work at a dealership, the only job I would take is F&I because they are the closers. They're the ones that make the money. The goal is to upsell you. Hey, do you want to Big E those fries? We're having apple pies on sale today, right? All that Big E stuff. That's what their job is. Let me update you. Let me get you the extended warranty. Let me get you the tires for life. We'll put the paint protection on and we'll do, the interior protection. And suddenly you're going, suddenly your payment is getting way out of control. So extended warranties can be good, but in most cases, you're better off taking that dollar amount and putting it aside in an envelope or in a savings account and don't touch it. So when your air conditioning needs repair, you go to that envelope or that savings account, you're in much better shape. The reason is many of these independent warranty companies, which is exactly what the manufacturers sell, they don't sell a Ford extended or a GM extended. It's always one of the many brands that call you in the middle of the night or that you see on television and the infomercials. And what they do is they use used parts. They can do rebuilt parts. They don't use the dealer to do the repairs or independent repair shops, not the ones that you choose, whoever they have assigned to you. There's always a deductible. Anything that's wear and tear is not included, like wiper blades, brake pads, brake components, things that wear just because of use. Those are not covered. So if you wanted to go to that full coverage, you would find yourself having a very expensive plan. I've reviewed them all. I write for consumeraffairs.com, and we've covered literally every single one. And the only one that was great is no longer around, and that was from USAA, and they work with the military people. That was probably the only one I saw that I really liked. So I mean, it's really important that if you think that you want an extended warranty, do your homework. Read I always say, what the big print gives, the small print always takes away. So look for the deductibles, look for who's doing the repairs, look, are those components rebuilt? Are they new? Are they factory components? And that's a key thing. You want factory parts, especially if you go to sell the car and they go, oh, well, that's not a factory part. That decreases the value of your vehicle on a resale.
No, that was really helpful. I've always wanted to know what the real kind of story was behind that one.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know. It's easy to get tricked by all those wonderful, exciting, sexy commercials that are like, you too can have an extended warranty and not have to pay any bills. All right. We've all heard that for literally everything, our home appliances and our homes and everything else. So just do your homework. I've not found one that I would consider personally.
Oh, yeah. Good.
I would love to be a fly on the wall the next time you go car shopping for a new car. And I feel sorry.
I just bought a car.
I feel sorry for the salesman and the finance guy.
Well, they already know. It's so funny. I just bought a Bronco Raptor because I live in Buffalo, and I need. It was actually one last year, and I'm buying cars all the time, moving inventory. But I walked in. They already knew who I was. I said, "Here's the deal. This is the price I'm paying. I'm not paying over sticker." And I just tell them right up front, I'm not a jerk about it. It's a business relationship, and I tell them that. I say, "Here's the deal," and if you're straight up with them and you treat it as not a swap meet but a business deal, you'll always get a good price. Do your homework online. Check whatever brand it is you're looking at. I don't care if it's Hyundai, Kia, whatever. Go to the factory website. There's always incentives there that you might miss, like fresh college, newly married, return from the military. There's all kinds of really good things. First new car, college graduate. I mean, there's tons of incentives. If you miss them, you don't get them later. So you have to get it when you walk in. And if you come and you go, I've got all these papers here, then they know you did your homework.
Right.
And that's the key thing. They walk in with the paper. You say, listen, I just looked, Joe's Chevrolet down the street's offering that same car, same options, and I can get it for $100 less a month. They'll go, hold on, let me see the guy in the corner. They go to the sales manager, and he's like, we're going to match it. Because they don't want you, they know if you walk out of that dealership, they've lost your sale. But if you're not ready to make a decision, take a card from whoever the salesperson is and say, I'll get back to you, and do so. I mean, it's good. You've got a business relationship. If you need service from that place, at least you'll be glad that you have a business relationship with somebody there.
So, Lauren, last year, the auto strike, we watched, obviously, auto workers walking out, telling the country and the administration and the auto companies that they needed more money. But it's the inflation. It was kind of a circular reasoning. You saw the president going out and striking with them. First time you've ever seen that in the history of the country, president walking the picket line. But it was the policies of that administration causing the inflation that caused the auto workers to say we need more money and go out on a strike. And here we are.
Yeah, and it's going to cost everyone about $3,000 to $5,000 more for every single vehicle. So the price of vehicles are going up. You're watching auto shows for media no longer being there, like the Detroit Auto Show in Chicago and CES in LA and all that. Those are great for consumers. Definitely a great place to go and sit in a bunch of different brands. But for us as media, absolutely a total bomb. The only thing that's left is Consumer Electronics Show. The cost of doing that with all the union workers. And then, of course, I'm not saying the UAW employees didn't deserve more money. They have not had a raise since before 2019. They did deserve a raise. However, the cost of everything getting more expensive made it even more expensive to the brands, and it cost them billions of dollars. And as they played this little attack game of attacking their most valuable product of trucks and SUVs. So while the UAW may have played it smart and the workers ended up with more money, you as the consumer are going to foot the bill. And everything is getting more expensive. Transportation, components, parts, buying things here in the US or overseas. And all of that comes down to cost of vehicles going up, and there is nothing we can do about that.
Well, Lauren, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I also want to invite you to go car shopping with me the next time I go, because I definitely will have you by my side negotiating. For sure.
Well, you know a lot about cars. You worked in the industry. I'm sure you catch them off guard all the time, because people typically, salespeople, and I used to be a dealer trainer, they judge the book by the cover, even though we tell you to look them in the eyes, shake their hands, and say, how can I help you today? Instead of, are you buying or leasing? And how much can you afford a month? Never answer those questions. Go, I don't know yet.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time on Main Street Matters, America's small business megaphone. Thank you all for listening as well. And you can subscribe to the show at SalemPodcastNetwork.com. And we'll see you next time.